Okay. Good evening, everybody. And listen, welcome to the room. Fall on in, grab you a seat, and sit down. We are going backwards in time to basically, it's really one of my favorite stories. It's one of my favorite stories, which is V.C. Andrews' actual book and movie, Flowers in the Attic. And Lifetime, you know what? Lifetime has actually done a couple things here because it was a series of books that actually went, Flowers in the Attic, Let There Be Thorns, on and on and on and on and on. It's a whole series. Really, really good series. Yes, welcome y'all. Welcome y'all. Grab you a seat. Come on in the room. I'm rolling because it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about. So I'm rolling. We are actually going to focus in this live on Flowers in the Attic, the origin, part one, which was actually called The Marriage. This part of this is actually the prequel. This is the prequel. This is before anything happened, anything like the actual Flowers in the Attic. This is the background story of Olivia Foxworth. So it really speaks to how that grandmother became the maniacal maniac that she was. Yes, it's actually on Lifetime. Um, I'm late because this actually happened a few weeks ago. This came out a few weeks ago. I said I was going to watch it, but I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't in a rush because up till this point, I haven't been blown away by any of the adaptations that they've actually done. For me, the movie that was done in the 80s has always been top tier. Always been top tier. Hey, Jay Amont, it's always been top tier and nothing compared to it. So I wasn't running over. Baby, I could not be more wrong. Something told me today, go ahead, sit on down and watch it because you said you were going to watch it. So here I am. And it literally, like I said, Olivia Foxworth, who started off as Olivia Winfield. This is actually her story. This is so damn good. So damn good. So well done. And I'm going to run through what was this first episode was literally, it's like, what, 80 minutes? It was like 80 minutes long. We're not going to be here for 80 minutes. I'm going to sum it up for you real quickly. No, Xavier, they didn't actually remove the incest. They just didn't. I mean, because that's what the story's about. That's what the story's about. It literally is about incestuous behavior and this overdoing of the Bible stuff. But all of that gets touched on. All that gets touched on. They actually redid the actual Lifetime, redid Flowers in the Attic, and they really focused in on the sex stuff. Whereas, I mean, they didn't do a bunch of sex scenes in the original movie because in the 80s, we weren't ready for all that. So when they redid it a few years ago, they really did. I guess that's maybe what you meant when you say they removed it. They didn't really remove it. I mean, we knew what they were talking about because back then you knew what they were talking about. Here, I'm getting ready to soapbox real quick. I'll give you a perfect example. Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street. So let's stretch for a minute. Nightmare on Elm Street. What is Nightmare on Elm Street really about? What was that really about? What was Freddy Krueger really about? What was it that actually made Freddy so scary? Was it the claws? Was it, what was it? Why did the people in the town go after him? Because remember, in his story, before he became this supernatural thing, the people in the town, he had pissed the people off in the town so badly that they literally chased him and cornered him and burned him alive. Ergo is why he became this predator and went after their children to get back at them. You got it right. He was a pedophile. He was a pedophile. And when we do the movie originally, of course it's a horror movie. It already has the R rating, but they weren't ready to go there in that early 80s. They weren't ready to go there like that with it, so they really didn't focus on it. But then when they did the remake, there's a remake that they did in the 2000s of Nightmare on Elm Street, which I absolutely couldn't stand because it really zoomed in and dug the knife and twisted it as to what he really was doing, videotaping the kids and all of this different stuff. And they put it in there. And that's kind of where I have a real issue with remakes, because remakes, the stories don't get better. The story is still a story. You know, they don't add to the story most times. Most times what they do is throw a shock factor in and they make it more gory. That's all. And for me, there's no purpose in that. There's other storytellers. Why not tell their stories? Leave the old stuff as what it was. We touched upon stuff and we knew what we were talking about and we moved on with it. Say, and I didn't like that they killed the mother off in the 80s. I did. I did, because she was a mess too. See, she had karma wrapped around her as well. She was a mess too. She was with the bullshit too. So she sacrificed her kids for her happiness at the end. She literally sacrificed her kids. She didn't give them away. She didn't put them in foster care. She literally gave her children, when you really pay attention to the story, she literally offered her children up as human sacrifices to get back in her father's good graces. She deserved to have her neck snapped. She was raggedy. She's a raggedy whore. So no, I loved her ending, and she had cute boots when they hung her, honey. Cute boots, nice wedding gown. Far as you going, sister. But yeah, you say, but I prefer her being burned up in the house she wanted so badly. It was more poetic to me. Okay. I kind of liked it to hang in front of everybody at the wedding. You know, I'm dramatic. So it's like, oh. So, anyway, but down off my soapbox, but on payment, and I'm back. This is all what we're leading to. This is the story of Flowers in the Attic. The mother who sacrificed the children. She had children with her uncle, and this, that, thing, and the other, and on and on and on. It's a whole big incestuous mess, is what it was. Flowers in the Attic, the origin actually is giving you the background story when it all started. Why was the grandmother so maniacal? So let's talk about Olivia Winfield, who is the grandmother. That's what she started off as. Her maiden name is Winfield. She was more of she was kind of like a spinster, an old maid, kind of is what she was. She was working, you know, and at that time, back then, 1910, 1912, women didn't work. They didn't have jobs like that. But she worked with her father. She worked with her father. They had a business that seemed to be, you know, like it was a thriving business that did real well. She was a very smart, business-minded woman. She was really groovy. She was really groovy. She wasn't mean or hateful or any of those things back then. She wasn't the best looking woman. Okay. She wasn't the best looking woman. So she was no drop dead gorgeous woman. She's pretty much raised by her dad because her mother had passed on earlier on. And it was what it was. She's kind of like spoiled, and you know, but he was always trying to find a suitor for her and all these different things. So through some business and all of this, she ends up meeting Malcolm Foxworth. He came there for a business meeting with her father. Of course, her father kind of seeing him as like this suitor and was like, oh yeah, you know, he's rich and you know, he had everything you wanted. He's like the owner of all of this stuff, and he's, you know, he that dude. She has an uncle. Her uncle was into the Lord, okay? Heavily into religion. Her father was more of a believe what you want to believe, but we don't really have to go all into it. I think her mother was more of the spiritual person because her mother had actually left her a cross behind. You know, like most people have like their wedding rings that they left. She left her this really beautiful cross behind. And yeah, it was cool, but she didn't get that until she married. Anyway, let's speed it up. She meets Malcolm. She's smitten with Malcolm. Malcolm is smitten with her. It was like a kind of a love at first sight kind of thing, which was a lie. It was a lie. He was smitten with her. Okay. He's smitten with her. They fall in love. It's very, very fast. And he ends up telling her, you know, he told her how he didn't have his mother, that his mother died when he was 5 years old. She kind of ran what nowadays we would call like a background check, but they had to kind of go through her dad to find out like some stuff about the background of the family. Finds out that's a lie. The mother didn't die when he was 5 years old. She didn't die. She had literally just passed on recently. Okay. And so she actually questioned him about that. He told her, listen, my mother actually walked off and left. My mom walked off and left us. So I didn't actually lie. To me, after the age of 5, she was pretty much dead to me. She was gone, and that was it. And then I just found out of her passing just, you know, a few months ago. So that kind of cleared that up. And then it went into a whirlwind. Oh, will you marry me? She's like, I can't believe I'm doing this, but yeah, I'll marry you. She goes ahead off. Something in me already said, something ain't right. Something gonna go wrong. What the hell is this really about? The uncle had already had, I told you, the uncle was connected. The uncle was connected to the Almighty, okay? And the Almighty had already told the uncle, tap, 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 get your niece. Get your niece. And he actually asked her, is this really what you want? Now, my mind, because I'm going by what I already know of the regular story, I'm saying, why is that uncle all like that? So I'm questioning the uncle. But truly, the uncle was very much in tune with the higher power and knew exactly what he was talking about, but he just couldn't get through. You know, the heart wants what the heart wants. And, you know, once he kind of had finessed her and everything, she was like somebody who thought that they were going to be the old cat lady, honey. She's been reopened to the whole idea of being in love and all these things. And he didn't try to rush her into sex or anything like that. He was a total gentleman. So uncle couldn't get through. He didn't push it. He just said, okay. So she goes on off. Baby, listen, that whirlwind of romance literally stopped on the ride in to Foxworth Hall. Okay. I have not seen it yet, James, but it's sounding like a good show. I love anything 80s. Well, yeah. And then we're all the way back because, yeah, it's a period piece. So we back in the 1900s. So it's really good, Jay. But so they're on their ride, and even the way he's speaking to her has now changed. It's not, he's speaking to her like she's an employee at this new job. And I'm like, what the hell is that all about? What is that? But anyway, they get there. Foxworth Hall is huge. It's a whole castle. It's a castle. She's greeted by a team, because it's nighttime at this point. It's a team of maids and different things like that. She gets there. The first thing she's finding out in the car, they don't have electricity. Like, wait a minute. She says, it's so dark out here. He said, oh, you'll get used to it. You'll get used to it because there's no, you know, listen, it's a castle, a real castle, for real, for real. Drab, look like a man lives there. That's what it looks like. You don't see a sight of a woman for many, many miles, and it just looked like a man lived there in a castle. But anyway, so she gets there. Right away, you sense the shade of the head maid. Said, well, who is she? We found out about her. She's basically been at Foxworth Hall her whole life. Her whole life. She's been there. Her mother actually worked there. She was there. You could see and feel the tension of her right away. She's jealous. She's jealous because, again, she's the head maid. So there's no woman. So she basically been the woman of the house, if you will, this whole time. This whole time. And yeah, that's kind of what it was given. So we go on, And then we end up meeting Nella. Nella is a African American maid, and Nella, she's a maid. We'll leave it at that. She's a maid. Okay, she's a maid, but at that time they still move like slaves. I said it. They still move like slaves. It's very, it ain't yes a massa, but they ain't but that far away, 2 years out from it. Okay. Thank you, Macho Francis. Thank you so much. Yeah, they ain't too far out from the whole yesel, all that. Okay. But Nella, you know, not a bad looking woman at all. She's and she's pretty stacked and she a pretty black woman. And I noticed that she has a scar on her face. That's why I said, what is that about? We didn't really get all into that, but I did notice the scar on her face. And like I said, we're not so far out from the slave type situation. Okay. Everybody is pretty cold. When they were entering the house, he literally just walked on in the house and left her out there with the servants, with the staff. I was like, the hell? I mean, he just completely switched up on her. And they take her to her room and he goes off to his room. So keep in mind, this is their wedding day. This is their wedding day. So she's like, okay, naturally, remember, she don't have a mother because her mother has passed on. So she knows what she knows of what a wife's duties are from reading books. She did a lot of reading and stuff, reading books and stuff like that. So she's still waiting on this fairy tale thing to go on. And that was like the biggest thing that we saw right away as to how she was now in this. It's a fortress, is basically what it is. It's a castle. But for her, for Olivia, it's a fortress. That's all that it is. She's in there. She gets her little nightie on. She lays there in the bed, and she basically is waiting on her husband. And by the way, let's not even pull any punches. Malcolm is fine. Fine, okay? So I know old Spinster girl was waiting for him to come in there and tear that box up, honey. Never came. Never came. The morning came. She got up, got dressed, went down. She had breakfast. She's asking them. She asked the head maid, well, when does Mr. Foxworth come down? She said, oh, honey, Mr. Foxworth was already gone. He had an early morning meeting. So she tried to play it off. Said, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. No, you ain't forgot. You didn't know. You ain't know none of that. Okay. So that's when she tells her, Mr. Foxworth wanted me to take you and show you some things. And she says, okay, cool, no problem. So he's takes her into this beautiful office, and there's all these books. It's like a study. Looks like a study and all that. She's like, oh, yeah, this is wonderful. And she's like, yeah, she's like, oh, I love to read. Oh, shady ass bitch. She will say, I'm sure you do. I said, what? Let her know, baby, you won't be doing any reading of those books, honey. And she goes, and there's a little push wall, and baby, there's a little teeny tiny little office room back inside the cut of the room. This is where your office, this is where you'll be running the business of Foxworth Hall. So exactly how he was treating her and talking to her is exactly what she had going on. Baby, you are the new employee. You're brought here basically to run the business of Foxworth Hall. This is what you were brought here for a purpose. And the purpose isn't really to just be loved on by your husband. It's a little deeper than that. You work here, basically. So that's that. So she says to her, well, will you take me on a tour around? It's hard for me to do the business of Foxworth Hall when I don't know anything about the Foxworth family. I don't know what they liked. I don't know who they were. I don't know the pedigree. I really don't know. She says, well, I have to go to the kitchen. So she just avoids it altogether. She says, she had told her that the night before, Nella was basically her personal assistant, and Nella would be doing whatever she needed done. Nella from the door, Nella had taken a liking to her. Nella seen that she was green, and she had taken a liking to her. And she asked Nella to take her around. And Nella was like, okay. So she walked her around. They went down to the West Wing. Down in the West Wing, honey, we find the familiarity that we have for those who know us, who know the story. They get down there, everything's real dusty, and you can see they don't be down there that much. Get down there and go all the way back, and you find this room. And then in the room, there's beds there. I said, oh, looks familiar. It's just a regular old bedroom. And then there's a little small, tiny door off of, baby, it's the attic, the infamous attic. At this point, Nella's saying, no, we don't. We just don't. We don't. Don't go up in that way. So Nella's like, no. So she can't tell her naturally because she's Mrs. Foxworth. No, I can't, Nella was like, I wish you wouldn't. I wish you would. So Nella's like, baby, I'm not going up in there with you. But she went on up in there, and she went up in there, baby, and that's where she saw all these just like different things. And she found the mother's clothes and picture of the mother, beautiful. And that picture wasn't Dusty. Okay. Just different things. Mostly it's his mother's things. The things that we don't want to talk about are in the attic. So then she ended up, there was a bunch of mice up there, and she fell, and the mice ran all up on her, honey, and it gave her the willies, honey. So she's like, woo, child, all this stuff, it's all spooky up in here. All these mirrors and all this stuff. It was weird how the stuff was up there. So she knows there's more to that. She comes on down. She says, I never plan to ever go back there again, which she never did for like over 30 years. And then that's when we get to where we are, okay? Where we are. So then she runs out of there because she's so, the stuff with the rats. She just got so out of sorts. It's very easy to get lost in Foxworth Hall because there's so much of it. She runs down, and she thinks she's going the right way, and she thinks she has actually got back to her room, but she opens this door, and it's not. It's actually the mother's room. Beautiful bedroom, like everything beautiful. Everything is just, I guess, as it was when she was there. He ended up walking up on her in the room, and he kind of yells at her. And he has this real thing about saying to her, since he did the switch up, do you understand? Do you understand? Like every time he said it, it would just go through me like, the fuck are you talking about? Do I understand like that? I mean, it was real, like you just saying shit. Do you understand? Like you own slaves or something. A mess. And he will hold that stance until she say, yes, I understand, Do you understand? Anyway, so this is where we at. He tells her, get out of here. Get out. I was like, oh. So she leaves out, and she's like, okay, whatever. And she tells him basically she's been up in the attic, this, that, thing, and the other. Now they have this really strange conversation. He tells her, the mother, she said, so you seen her? You seen her? She's like, yeah, I seen her. She's like, what do you think of her? And she says, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. This, that, thing, and the other, on and on and on. Now listen, here's where you're strange. What do you think of her? She's beautiful. Well, I don't know. But nothing bad to say. She had nothing bad to say about her. So he says, would you like to see her bedroom now? The proper way. So, oh. So she's like, yes. So now he done calmed all the way down. They go back into the bedroom. Now she starts telling him a little bit more, This is where we were a lot. My father traveled a lot. Me and my mother were pretty much secluded to this room. She said, to her bedroom? She's like, yeah, to her bedroom. Said the other. My mother would sit and do her makeup, and I would sit in this chair. He went over there and he sat, and it's like a little kid reliving. I would sit here, and she would tell me stories, and I would sit in this little chair and I would tell her that the makeup was perfect, and then that was when she'd be done. And she's like, okay. And then he takes her and he sits her in a chair. He had this very strange affiliation with his mother. I said, okay, so I don't know what's going on here. Something's really different. I said, is he a drag queen? Something. Well, no, you loved your mama so much you want to be just like her. What is going on here? Anyway, sits her down in this chair and he says, but see, you don't wear any makeup. She's like, no, no, on the contrary, I do wear makeup. But my mother always taught me, if you're wearing it properly, people hardly even know that you have it on. He said, take it off. So then she wipes the makeup off. He's like, see, look, perfect. So then he said to her, you're not anything like her, are you? And then he was like kind of like easing in closer. So it was this whole thing like he adores his mother for exactly what she is, but he don't want a woman nothing like her. He wants her to be the complete opposite of the mother. The mother's very pretty. Olivia not all that pretty. His mother wore makeup and his mother wore fine clothing and everything like that. Because when she asked, "What you think about her clothing?" and she said, "I mean, it was nice or whatever," but I guess he felt it wasn't really her style. He wanted her to be the total opposite of his mother. Weird, weird, weird. I said, okay. So he was leaned all the way in on her, and she leaned up. She was going to kiss him. Baby, that thing, he said, what are you doing? He got so offended at the fact that she was making a move on him. I said, oh, maybe he is a drag queen. I said, what the hell is going on with you? Child, he got mad and stormed out. I said, oh, okay. So let's move forward. Okay. So eventually she ends up, there's some back and forth with her and the head maid. They're doing this whole thing about this party, okay? It's the party um for her marital celebration. And the head maid's, oh, I took care of everything, this, that, thing, the other. Like she just wasn't included in anything. So she basically pushed her authority with the head maid and told her, I'll plan my own celebration. I'll do it myself and all of that. Now, that was one of the things that he kind of liked about her is that she actually had that push for business. Okay. So she told him, trust me, just you got to trust me. I'll make it right. He's like, this is important, this, that, and the other. So he's like, okay, when I tell you, baby, the old head maid, she was evil. Evil, because she thinks she's the woman in the house. Evil. At that time, she ran out and she's standing there, and a telegram had actually came for Olivia. And in that telegram, she just took it. We don't know what it was. She ripped it up, put it in her pocket, and went on about her business. Olivia puts the party together. She told her, get Nella for me. I want Nella to help me. So now Nella got an X on her back. Nella helps her. They get everything together. Girlfriend done came, got herself together, baby. Got the flowers, everything she made these changes to. She's like, well, ma'am, we never had flowers that's that big. And she's like, that's okay. Make them bigger. She gets her little dress. Baby, she had this ruby red velvet gown on and all of this. She's looking good. She's looking good. Hair done up, had little stones in her hair. Nella got her all fixed up, baby. She fly. And Nella said, you did it, ma'am. You did it. She said, no, we did it. She actually, her and Nella have become friends. So she goes down, honey. She feeling good about herself. And she was looking good. She get down there, baby. So they come down, the people greet them. And then they go and they do this little ballroom dance, honey. He told her, he said, what is this? You look like a common streetwalker. This, that, thing, and the other. I told her she looked like a lady of the night, honey. And all of this, and just everything about it, he hated it. Everything she had decided, he hated it all. Everything that was flashy and pretty, that looked like something his mama might have done, he hated it all. She said the party went on for like 3 hours. She said she just really just was ready to throw up. She wanted it to be over with. She literally, when the party was over, she had ran back to her room and she crawled up on her bed and she was sobbing. Okay. This jerker comes in a little bit after that and tells her, come with me. He gets her by the hand and she's like, okay, well, maybe things are going to get better now. Takes her down the hallway to his mother's room. Tells her, lay on the bed. I said, shut up. And it was just so ugly. He went over there. He's taking off his little tie and his little cufflinks. He didn't even take his clothes off. He just unzipped his pants, went over there and basically he violated her. She said, "Oh, wait a minute, please don't." He violated her. He violated her flat out. There was no intimacy. There was nothing. There was nothing. And this is them consummating their marriage. And that's how it felt, like she was literally raped on her wedding day. He literally, when he had sex with her, he literally had her laying on this bed and he had his hand on her face like this. She got her head turned the whole time like, don't kiss me, don't nothing. It was just literally, it was rape. That's what it was. She wasn't consenting. She wasn't consenting. There was no intimacy. She didn't want to do it. It was terrible. Right. It was, well, not actually the wedding night, but because remember they got married at her father's. And then they got into the thing and they came home. And then a few days after she got to Foxworth Hall, they had it was like they were having a wedding again. So they kind of like had two weddings. Like, well, no, she like had a wedding and then she had a reception at her new place. And then after the reception, they were consummating the marriage. They were still holding. And then she wasn't even trying to do it because he didn't treat her like crap. And then he just took it. Just took it. They still had their clothes on and everything. And you're laying there in his mother's bed and he basically screwed her. It was horrible. It was horrible. Horrible. It was horrible. And then we see a montage after that of like nightly, this is what was going on. Yeah, it was like nightly, this was going on. We see him going to her room, grab her by the arm, and then each time you could see her wanting to go less and less. It got to the point where he was literally like grabbing her by the arm, dragging her across the bed to get her out and taking her down to his mama's room and getting down with her. And each time he got his hand over her face and it was violation. So yes, I use that word. It was rape. That's what it was. She ain't gave in for none of that mess. It was none of that. She got pregnant. She had a baby. He told her right away when she said, "I'm pregnant." He said, "It's a girl and her name is Corinne." She said, "Huh?" She said, because that's the mama's name. I said, "Baby, something with you and your mother. I can't with you and my mom." Honey. Anyway, it was weird, very weird. Anyway, had a boy. He was pissed. She got pregnant again. She had a boy again. He was even more pissed. But then, shortly after the birth of the baby, the doctor told her, "You can't have any more children, Olivia. I'm very sorry." He literally sat there and told her, "The one thing that I wanted, and you won't even give me that. Can't even give it to me." Got up and walked out. He's a hot mess. Shortly after this, senior Mr. Foxworth comes. They hear that the father is coming in town with his new bride. It was a telegram. He's like, "Oh, okay." And it was this cryptic talk he had for her. He told her, "Listen, you are Mrs. Foxworth. Do you understand? You are the mistress of this house. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter who comes through here. You know your place. You hold your place. You are the mistress of this house. You are the sole Mrs. Foxworth." I said, "Okay." Now, we ain't met the daddy. I said, the daddy must got that bullshit with him, okay? So the daddy come in, baby. Daddy is a high roller, okay? He come in, he's sharp. Get out. He all happy. He roll out. He's like, "Oh, everybody's, oh, Mr. Foxworth, we're so glad to see you." That old head maid, honey. She was like, "Hey, Mr. Foxworth." So I said, "Okay. Yeah, all right." His wife get out the car, "Baby." Oh, let me go back for a minute before I tell y'all about that wife before she got out. Let's just know that Malcolm Foxworth's mother was 17 years old when she had him. She was 22 when she left Foxworth Hall, when she walked away, supposedly walked away from Foxworth Hall. She's 22 years old. She said, to hell with this. She left him and Foxworth Hall and went on about her business. She was only 17 when she actually had him. Who knows how long she had actually been screwing daddy before she got pregnant. Anyway, now let's go on. He opens up the door for his bride. She get out. Baby, this child is all of 20 something. She younger than Malcolm and definitely Olivia. She's a little girl. And she pregnant as hell. Pregnant as hell. I said, now this could be a problem. But nobody said anything. And she was real pregnant. Like she had to be like 7 months. When they got to 7, 8 months, she was ready to pop. Child, get there. The whole thing is totally different. You know, they were a real married couple. They're at the table, and that was the thing. They're always at this table. That was the symbolism. He sat at one end, she sat at the other. Child, the two of them was sitting in the middle of the table, side by side. And the little girl, little Mrs. Foxworth, she said, how do y'all do this? How y'all sit so far apart? Then when they told them, oh, that was another thing. She had asked him she wanted to go to Venice for her honeymoon. He's like, yeah, okay, we'll see. Blew her off. Well, of course, they started talking about their honeymoon. She said she wanted to trip around the world. So they had been gone for months. They had been gone for, I think, 2 months, just traveling around. She gets whatever she wants. So that was that. Here, them two don't communicate. He didn't know that he had 2 grandchildren. And he didn't know that he was married, nor that the bride was pregnant. So they don't mess with each other, really. So all Malcolm wants to do is really listen to the stepmother talking. And you see right away, you get to see he's a little smitten with was it 2 years? 2 years they had been going around. Yeah, So 2 years they had been moving around. They had a real marriage. This other shit wasn't nothing but an employee. And as a matter of fact, he started treating her like she was one of the servants. Go make sure that the servants get the dessert and bring it out on the veranda. I said, what? A mess. He's a whole mess, a whole narcissistic mess, just like his mother. I mean, he explained some stuff about his mother. Said she was vain and she was narcissistic. He got all that. He got all that from her. Got the looks from her and got them behaviors. But anyway, so he ends up, he's a little smitten with her, and you can see it and all of that. Okay, so go ahead, and then the father's bride ends up having her, but before all that, her and Olivia become friends. Because like the first day there, she said, I've only been here 1 day, and I'm lonely. I'm lonely. And she said, I just want to be friends. I know that you're the mistress of the house. I don't want that. I couldn't even do it. She said, all I want is a friend. So they became friends. In that moment, they became friends. And so she actually sat with her, held her hand when she had her baby. Whenever she had her babies, Nella was there holding her hands. Nella's her friend. So she has the baby. She has a boy. His name is Christopher. Get into it. Now, they ain't said nothing. But now that he done had Christopher is Malcolm's brother. How that gonna work? Because now y'all 50-50, right? But they never touched on to that yet. I said, okay. But now we know we got baby Christopher. That's fine. So after that, they're still there living at the house and everything like that. Then there's this one night where Nella gets let go. The head maid comes and tells Olivia, Nella's been let go. That the sir, Mr., her husband, had let her go. She's like, why? She's like, because he said so. She's on her way to talk to him because she's like, what the hell? She's on her way to talk to him. And the next thing you know, you hear this commotion and this ruckus. Earlier that day, we watched him watching his stepmother skinny dipping. He's sitting there like a creep watching her. I said, okay. Well, what he ended up doing, when she goes, she hears the hollering. The head maid is like, "What is that?" She says, "Whatever it is, it's none of your business. Go away." So she goes, she busts in the room. She goes in the room. It is the father and the stepmother's room. The father is stretched out in the floor. We see Malcolm has like some scratches or something on his arm, and he's like closing his shirt. Stepmom is on the bed, like, and then she's run over to the father. She's like, don't leave me, don't leave me. Oh my God, whatever. Then anything happens. Everything happens. The doctor comes. The father then passed on. The doctor's talking about an autopsy. Olivia shuts it off. You know what? She can't stand all that. She can't take no more of that. So let's just skip the autopsy. Me and Malcolm will handle getting her through her grief and everything like that. And what I'll do is I'll make a large donation to your hospital because I know you are trying to build a West Wing or whatever. And I'll just donate. So the doctor's like, damn, being bought off. And he's like, okay, ma'am, no problem. And he just leave it alone and go on. So a couple months ends up going by, okay? And where Nella had gotten fired, Nella had actually told her, you need to watch Mr. Foxworth because he likes beautiful things. He likes beautiful flowers. He likes beautiful paintings. He likes beautiful women. You need to watch him. And shortly after that is when she got fired, okay? So that was that. And you know that it was the head maid that was telling him them two getting too close, and he got rid of her. So it was like, okay, that's fine. No problem. So then they come back in. And after that little situation happened, a couple months go by. The stepmother, she's like grieving. She's not coming out the room. Olivia comes in. Remember, they're friends. So she goes in there. She opens the drapes and stuff. She told her, this is enough. Like, we're not doing this no more. Get up. You need to do what you need to do. I understand you lost your husband and all that. There's the love of your life and all that. But your son needs you. You have a son running around in here. He needs you. So you got something to live for, sister. You get on that and you get yourself together. And they're talking. And then she's telling her, you can, well, she ends up telling her, you're not seeing it all. Like, you don't know what it is. Do I have to tell you what it is? She's like, yeah, what are you talking about? Here it is. Malcolm has been coming there and he's been raping her. He's been raping her and holding things over her head and letting her tell her if she says anything or she resists that he would hurt baby Christopher, which she actually watched him kill her husband. She told the story. She said, yeah, he basically was in here trying to violate me. The father came in, he took him and held him against the wall, basically choked him until he went into a heart attack and he stretched out. And the scratches was basically from her trying to fight him off and all of that. So she's like sitting there like, oh my God. So she tells her, listen, you can get out. You can still get out. She said, you got your inheritance. You have a beautiful baby. You're young. You're beautiful. I'm trapped. You don't have to be trapped. You can get out. And that's what she told her. No, I really can't get out. It's too late. She said, what's too late? Baby, she is pregnant. She's pregnant and she's pregnant by Malcolm. Well, that was it. Olivia, she just snapped. At that time, she just snapped. She just turned around. She had this blank look on her face. She runs out the room. She runs outside and she has to catch her breath. And she's like, okay, all right. She goes back into the kitchen and she's saying, you can hear in her voiceover. She said, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to slit his throat. Because you could just see something snapping her. The old Olivia is completely gone. Oh, wait a minute. I done left something before we go there. She was actually trying to make a getaway. She's going to make this here getaway and leave. This is right before the father and them came. She was getting ready to, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. She was getting ready to leave. She's getting ready to leave. And Nella had helped her get all her things together. And she was sneaking out. He had left. And then she was getting ready to leave. They had the car ready. Nella was going to drive her. She's getting ready to get him out of there. Child, and a car drove up. It was her uncle. Her uncle came. He said, "You scared me. Like, I've been sending messages and telegrams to you, and I'm not hearing anything back from you." She's like, "I didn't get them. Remember, the maid been cutting them off." That telegram was to tell her her father had died. Her father had died. The business was gone. The house was gone. There was financial woes that the father was hiding from her and different things like that. And the uncle had brought like whatever he could salvage of her things. She had this really pretty dollhouse and a couple of other things. He had brought those, and she just played it up for her uncle. Was like, "Oh no, everything's fine. You know, this, that, thing, and the other. Everything's fine. Everything's cool." And then the uncle went on off. Like I said, now let's go back where we were. So she's really at the end of her rope. We saw the snap in her. I was like, "Oh shit." So she goes into the kitchen and she gets this. She said, "I need a knife." They hand her a butter knife. She put that down. She goes back over there. She grabs a butcher knife. I said, "Oh Lord." She grabs the butcher knife and she goes. And then the next thing you know, you hear this, and then you see her covered in like blood splatter. And it's a goat. There's a goat on the floor. It's like laying there. It's a goat. And she says, "We're going to have this for dinner. Now I need a horse." So the head maid is like, "A horse?" She said, "Not to kill it. I want to ride it." So she goes about her business. She's still blood splatter. She rides the horse. She rides to Nella's house and tells Nella, "Can you be at Foxworth Hall tomorrow morning? You were done wrong. Can you be at Foxworth Hall tomorrow morning?" She said, "Yes." She said, "Okay." She rides off and she goes. Now, when Nella goes back in the house and closes the door, there's this beautiful mulatto girl standing there. And she says, "Mama, why didn't you tell her about me?" And she said, "Because she's my friend. She's my friend, and she don't need all that. She's my friend." I said, "Shut up, shut up." She's like, "You're not going back?" She said, "Yes, I am. She's my friend." Child, Nella got her one too. I said, "Oh." So later on that night, they have the dinner and all that. So her and he's being all cold, nasty to her. He said, "I'm going on in the room and in the library. I'm not to be disturbed. This, that, thing, and the other." He goes in there and then he hollers her name. She's sitting there. She got on, she's all dressed up, got her good gown on that she knew he would hate, her makeup all done. She go back there, honey, and then the two of them get to going back and forth, baby. They get to battling. She flipped the script on him, baby, and let him know that she knew everything about everything and made him go ahead and tell her. She said, "I know what I've been doing, what you've been doing, and why you've been doing it." And so he goes and he's real smart, gonna tell her, "Yeah, you know what? You gave me two boys and two weak boys." I said, "Oh, I'm not talking about her babies and all that." Baby, she tell his ass off, and tells him that old girl, the stepmother, is pregnant. Pregnant. Okay. And she says, "But she leaving. She's leaving." And he's like, "Oh, but I know she's going to have a girl." He wasn't even ashamed. He was all happy with it. She says, "Isn't that interesting? You are married. You killed your father. And now your stepmother is pregnant by you. How quaint, how gauche." You know, it's like, and he's like, "You're not going to tell anybody that." She's like, "Oh, no, some of it I won't tell. The parts of it that makes me look bad, no, I'm not going to tell. But I will most certainly tell people that you killed your father because I'm the one who covered it up. I will uncover it. Let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to open a trust for both my boys with $2 million apiece in it to do whatever it is that they choose to do so they can get rid of you and get away from you and this God-forsaken place." She said, "That inheritance that your stepmother is supposed to get, you're going to double it. We are going to frame it that she looks as though she is leaving, out of here, out of the front door, to the servants. She will be driven around to the back. She'll be taken to the West Wing, and no one is to go to that West Wing at all. She will stay there until she gives delivery to the baby. We will take the baby and raise it as our own, and I will pretend to be pregnant for the public and for the servants, and it will never be spoken of again. And she said, and Nella's coming back. Why? Because she's my friend and I like her. I said, oh. And then she gave him, do you understand? And he's like, what? Do you understand? I said, Miss Thing, yes, God, honey. And that is where we actually ended in this. Listen, let me tell you something. All the other adaptations that I've actually seen about Flowers in the Attic, the retelling of the story, none of it has ever been anything that made me want to click my camera and come and talk to you all. This shit right here, baby, I jumped up off this couch and said, "It's my butt, Nanny," and that's how we got here. This is so good, so good, and I'm like, I never thought that they would be able to tell the story in a way, or that anything had ever happened that would make me be rooting for the grandmother, because the grandmother was a hot ass mess in Flowers in the Attic. But we're starting to see how she got, because she was not that in the beginning. She was not that monster in the beginning. She was made into that. That's true. Monsters are made. They're made. People create them. The one had the best acting and the best set design. This one had the best acting. This is bad. This is everything. And there are 5 parts. And each part, I think, are long like this. So y'all might as well look. And I didn't talk for almost an hour. Y'all might as well just get used to it and get ready, baby. Because as I watch these, baby, I'm going to be peeling back these layers and coming down here running my mouth. So if you enjoyed this video, meet me back here, baby, when you see my bell go off and it say Flowers in the Attic, baby. And I'll put you down with the get down, honey. Yes, indeed. I enjoyed this. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Listen, I got to go. Because I got another, I think I can get another one in tonight, honey. Give me another little hour and a half in here and watch this stuff. I'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all have a good night.